AI is changing the comms job and the CEO comms relationship with it. Let's get into it. And welcome to Avocast Daily. Today is December 10th, 2025. My name is Sean P. Neal, and today we have a great story coming to us from Washington, D.C. Now, that is where HarrisX and Ragan Communications have released their 5th annual Survey of Communications Leaders, capturing responses from 400 U.S. executives, including 125 CEOs and 275 comms leaders. So, a couple of things that we're going to look at, because AI has moved from a tool to being more of a teammate. It is now embedded across the communications workflow, and in many boardrooms, it is influencing who, or maybe what even, gets the pin for high-stakes moments. That is the shift that's creating kind of this new power dynamic of CEOs tightening the grip on message and risk, while communicators are leaning in on strategy and creativity to differentiate that human value. So here's what this actually means and why it matters for leaders. First of all, governance is lagging adoption here. And what I mean by that is organizations are really racing ahead with AI in drafting and research and analysis, but many have not clarified decision rights. Okay, so think about that. I'm talking about like who owns the voice, who approves sensitive content, right? When does a model draft versus a human lead? So those are very important decisions that without answers, you are really just opening the door and inviting inconsistency and reputational drift, as well as basically confused accountability. The next part here is thinking about the skills being rebalanced instead of being replaced. And we've talked about this in the past, that as AI came, we would see jobs changing, and what we were fearful of was that people would be replaced by AI. And what we're seeing here is that it's actually the skill set that is, as I said, rebalancing. There is a growing belief that data fluency and prompt craft are going to matter more here. So when, the pressure hits, executives are still going to prize that kind of timeless trio, strategy, creativity, and composure. But the winning comms teams won't choose between them. They're going to be fusing machine speed with human judgment. And so I think that that's a really good second point to remember. Now, third, I think corporate voice really needs a clearer rubric. I want you to think about leaders being more cautious when they speak publicly. That is the culture we're in today. And communicators are often seen as more kind of upside. And that really is a signal, I would say, to codify criteria here. Relevance to purpose, stakeholder impact, evidence threshold, and risk tolerance, those things. You need to be thinking about the why we speak before that next flashpoint hits and demands it from you. Now, last but not least here, I want to say that I do think trust is strong, but I feel that control sits at the top of this. So looking across this, access to that C-suite is there, but co-creation isn't always there as much. So the path forward, I think, is going to be a more partnership model where maybe comms leads the system and things like, channel strategy, narrative continuity, risk protocol, things like that. And then the CEO leads the moment. So they would be leading the intent and stakes and tone. Now, if I have to put an executive takeaway on this, it's really this. Think about building your AI communications playbook now. Okay, so just a couple of very high-level bullet points to go with that. Think about defining those decision rights that we talked about, who owns the voice, and then set some voice guardrails. You also want to think about quality and ethics checks. So maybe instituting those along the way as we're gearing into this new phase of AI. And I can't say this enough, upskill every single leader on working with AI without outsourcing judgment. If you do that, you'll be protecting trust and you're going to accelerate execution. And very importantly, you will keep culture intact, even as the tech just comes faster and faster at us. All right. That's a lot. There's a lot to take away from this. So please, wherever you're watching or listening, reach down into that comment section. Give a huge shout out to everyone at HarrisX and Ragan Communications, and let them know that you appreciate their time, their efforts in gathering the data for the survey. We'll link to that data, to the press release and more in the show notes, so you can find it there. And that does it for me today. It is, what is it? Wednesday. It is Hump Day, halfway through the week, my friends. I hope your week's going well. Till we meet again, please stay safe and be well. See ya.